The U.S. government shutdown is causing ripple effects here in Canada, with major airlines forced to adjust operations as the FAA reduces flights. With details on what travelers need to know, we're joined now by John Graddick, aviation expert. John, thanks so much for being with us. So thousands of flights, they're set to be canceled at 40 of the busiest and biggest airports in the U.S. These airlines also operate in Canada. So what's the impact for travelers?
I think travelers will start seeing messages being sent to them by the airlines if their flights are being canceled. The airlines are making a decision about which flights are to be canceled based on the FAA cutbacks. This morning, the cutback is not 10%, it's only 4%, but they're looking at scaling it up to 6 by Tuesday, 8 by Wednesday, by Thursday, and then 10 by next Saturday. So it's a progressive cut. So minimal disruption this weekend, but starting Tuesday, we might get to see 1 or 2 flights a day canceled by Canadian carriers into the U.S.
Yeah, and it's not only about these flights heading from Canada into the U.S., but some Canadian flights traveling within the country could also be impacted here because of that shared airspace. For instance, a flight from Toronto to Vancouver, for instance, that could be traveling mostly through U.S. airspace here.
Yes, I think that one of the things that's happening is that the FAA this morning is cutting down arrivals and departures at airports, reducing the capacity. They really haven't talked about, overflights. If flight is not landing or taking off in the U.S., but using space, that's going to be the issue that will be taking a lot of our attention, and that might start later on this week.
Because that's also using U.S. resources here. And as we know, there's been air traffic constraints here. Air traffic controllers, because of this historic shutdown, they're not getting paid. But even prior to this, there was staffing shortages. We were hearing from the U.S. this shutdown is just exasperating this issue here. Down the line here, how can Canadians be impacted?
Well, I think Canadians really have to make sure that they're staying abreast of what their flight schedules are going to look like. I think, looking at the airline websites, looking at the departure and arrival screens at airports, you'll get a better indication. The airlines are going to be responsible for getting in touch with you. So you're not going to be left to your own wishes or your own strategies to find out. The airlines will get in touch with you, sending you texts, sending you emails, even calling you if your flights have been affected. So I would suggest that stay well tuned to your smartphone or to your computer, check the websites, and be paying attention to messages from the airline if your flight's affected.
Hopefully these travelers will get that message, prior to heading to the airport. We've seen how some of these situations work out sometimes, and it could be a nightmare for those looking to take a flight here. I want to talk about a recourse available for these travelers. I heard at least one airline and some folks saying the advice was to make sure you're booking backups here, 2 or 3, in case one gets canceled. I don't know if that's even an affordable option for folks here, but what recourse do they have if this is a necessary flight that they need to get on?
Yeah, I think that that option would be great if this impact was only on 1 or 2 or 3 airlines. It's the industry that's being affected. So yeah, you can basically look at getting backups, but the odds of that backup flight operating when your primary flight's canceled, pretty slim. So yes, that strategy works if you have a strike or work shutdown on one given airline, but in this type of situation, not going to happen. That's not the best strategy. Best strategy is just make sure you're aware of the flights. The airlines and the airports don't want you to go to the airport if the flight's been canceled. So they will make every effort to get hold of you and to give you options in terms of your itinerary before you head out to the airport. The last thing they want is chaos at the airport.
Yeah, and the travel industry is really a booming business for any country, including the U.S. here. But with these cancellations, as operations could be scaling down, I mean, not to that 10% target just yet, but eventually, how long would it take to scale back up should the government shutdown be over?
It's going to take about 2 or 3 days. The airlines are used to this stuff. These shutdowns, I would say this is like a big major snowstorm, and it's affecting the U.S. So when you have a snowstorm, the airlines know what to do to position aircraft, position crews. So they understand recovery. So it'll take them 2 or 3 days at most to recover. But the 10% is there to get people's attention. If the 10% isn't working and people and airlines are able to maintain their schedules, even with a 10%, don't be startled to see them take up that number to 15 or 20% to get people's attention.
Yeah, again, this is all related to the historic U.S. government shutdown. We are going to be taking it day by day, keeping a close eye on this. John Graddick, as always, we thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Have a great day. Take care.